Hello, I'm Julian Bright of Informa. We're here at LTE Asia in Hong Kong. I'm here with Adriane Scrase, who's head of the 3GPP Mobile Competence Centre. Hello, Adriane.
Hi, Joe.
Adriane, you're overseeing the standards development process for LTE. Can you perhaps in a few sentences encapsulate where the standards process currently stands?
Yes, of course. I think probably the most important step that was taken in the standards production was the freezing of Release 8. This took place at the end of last year, December last year, and the final pieces that completed the puzzle were available by March 2009. And it's March 2009 then that forms the benchmark of standards upon which commercial products are now being built. So that's a very important step to enable the first networks to be rolled out.
And you're confident that those standards will prove themselves in the real commercial environment, if you like?
Absolutely. I think if you look at the results of the first commercial trials that are based on equipment built to that standard, the results from those trials are very pleasing indeed. In most cases, performance far exceeding that which we first expected.
Good. And Release 9 is where you're currently working. Now, can you perhaps just give us a few pointers as to what will be contained in that next release with regard to LTE?
Yes, I think it's important to understand that Release 9 is not a fix for Release 8. It's not a release that puts Release 8 right. But Release 8 was such an important and comprehensive piece of work that it wasn't possible within the time constraints to actually capture everything we needed. So Release 9 builds upon Release 8. It completes and adds new functionality which was not able to be completed within the 2008 timeframe. I mean, there are many features, more than 50 features in Release 9, but perhaps one of the more significant features which would be of interest at this show would be the availability of standards for LTE femtocells. Now, in Release 8, we managed to provide standards for UMTS femtocells, but the LTE femtocells get included within Release 9.
I see. There's been, just to pick up on some of the discussion points at the conference here, there's been some discussion around the availability of spectrum and the appropriate amount of spectrum that will be required for LTE. Does 3GPP offer any guidance on these sorts of questions?
Not so much guidance, but we offer a lot of flexibility because we recognise that throughout the world there are not harmonised spectrum blocks. There are different constraints in different regions.
Yes.
So from a standardisation point of view, our role in life is to make sure that we cater for all operators' needs. And in doing so, we've specified LTE use in bandwidths varying from 1.4 megahertz to 20 megahertz. And this offers all of the flexibility needed for LTE deployment worldwide.
We've heard also that there are a number of spectrum bands in which LTE can operate. Is that something of a challenge for the standards process?
Not a challenge, it adds complexity to the standard, of course. Every new band you add has to be properly specified. What we've ensured within 3GPP is that where there is a need for a new band to be included, we can do that work in a very short period of time. It takes typically 2 meeting cycles to add a new band to the standard. In real terms, that's about 6 months. So within 6 months from beginning to end, we can add a new spectrum band to the standard should that be required.
Perhaps just to address the issue of LTE, TDD and FDD, is the standards process progressing on both fronts at an equal rate, or is one ahead of the other?
I think largely at an equal rate. Both FDD and TDD modes were fully included within Release 8, and that's very important to ensure that from a commercial point of view, both are available in the marketplace at the same point in time. If we look at the testing work that's now being undertaken, I think there's probably about a 3 months difference between the TDD and the FDD development. So there is a slight difference in timescales, but actually rather insignificant.
I see. We know that one of the first operators to launch will be Verizon in the US, of course a CDMA operator. Can you talk a little bit about the cooperation or collaboration that's happening between 3GPP and 3GPP2 with regard to LTE?
Yes, of course. I think this was very good news indeed that the CDMA community have carved their evolution path towards LTE. I think that's a great benefit to industry at large. It does mean, of course, that those two communities do need to talk together. 3GPP and 3GPP2 were both created at the same point in time And when they were created, there were even discussions about having just one project developing both technology streams. When we decided to have two projects, we structured them so that they behaved very similarly. So we've always had a very close relationship between these two projects, but there's never been any blocking or tension between the two. We've always collaborated very well anyway. But looking more at the trade association point of view, of course we have the UMTS forum that worked very well in 3GPP. In 3GPP2 there is the CDMA development group, and very recently the CDMA development group became a partner in 3GPP. So from a trade representation point of view, the CDMA community is now fully represented within 3GPP. And again, I think that's an important step forward.
And in terms of operator commitments, we've now had a significant number of operators have committed to rollout of LTE. What's your latest count?
I haven't been counting, but I know a man who has.
Yes.
If you look at the Global Suppliers Association, they're reporting at this show that there are 39 commitments to deploy LTE. And by commitment, they mean distinct plans, calls for tender for equipment, and a date by which they intend to operate. So this is not sort of tentative commitments, these are firm commitments. And there are at least 39 of them, which I think is a very large increase from the last time we spoke.
Yes, indeed, yes. And LTE now firmly established as the next generation technology of choice. Are there any other contenders?
I think LTE is definitely the broadband enabler for the future, yes. We see convergence here between two very large families, the CDMA family and the GSM Evolve family. They're both converging at the point of LTE. I think it's inevitable. If you look at any of the analysts' figures, by 2015 they project that the world will be connected by the LTE family.
Yes.